How's it going, guys? Welcome back to a little surprise. This is SeaBed. Now, I played SeaBed a long time ago, and there's a lot of you who might not have actually known what this game is. It's one of the best games I've ever played. And it's really interesting because it's a great example of how to tell a fantastic story, like a personal, life-changing type of story. You don't need the massive budgets or the convoluted backdrop of dozens of different stories and world building that encompasses an entire multi genre narrative and multi novelization type of structure. Sure, some of them had done that. This one's done something far more impressive. It's captured something just pure and beautiful and wonderful in every sense of the word, and to this day, it's one of my top recommended visual novels for people. And it's funny because it's up there with Muv-Luv and Steins Gate and House of Fata Morgana, but it's made by such a small team of just really passionate people. And it got translated and sent over, and one of the beautiful things that ended up happening is after I covered the series on my channel and just loved every second of it, I actually got a message on Twitter from the writer of this story who doesn't know any English, so she used Google Translate to try and communicate with me, and she expressed how she was really skeptical of the idea of not only getting it translated, but also that somebody might play the game on their channel like I did. But then she watched my videos, and she said that she said, "I can't understand what you said, but I could read your feelings in your face, and it made me feel like I'd done the right thing, because I could share this story with someone like you, whom I don't know how to talk to." And I told her about how wonderful the story was and how meaningful it had been for me and how I genuinely considered it one of my favorites. And we get to go back. So in recent times, they've released something they call audio episodes, audio logs. They're essentially segments of the story that never got to be explored, maybe were referenced to. I'm not really too sure, but they're voice acted. Now, benefit, that's really cool. I get to listen to that. Downside, it means I literally am purposeless here. So I was not sure what to do about this, and I reached out and I talked to the publisher, and they said, look, just don't show everything. And you've got to talk about stuff. So I'll have to pause it and kind of interject occasionally. But yeah, we're going to share the first two of these audio experiences. And if you like it, I highly encourage you to go into it more. If this is your first walkthrough with this series, I don't think these will be necessarily spoilers. They could be, though. But frankly, you are going to be doing yourself a disservice. Please play this game. Watch my playthrough of it. But really, if at all you want to support smaller creators who are doing amazing work and encourage them to do more, hopefully in the future, please make sure to support this game. It's I always say that, but this is a personal plea from me. We need games like this. This is proof to me that the genre of visual novels is still alive and still has so much potential and can be doing so much more and so much better. We just have to show them we are interested. So please consider supporting this development team. It really means a lot to them in a way that we probably don't ever really understand. And to have that connection with somebody who would work so hard to create this really made a big difference for me. So anyway, I'm going to... God, I can't even explain it. I'm so nostalgic right now. This music is booting it up and just having it start playing again. It's just so cool. And there's so much I want to do and so much I want to keep exploring about this game. And the characters, Takako and Sachiko, they're so important to me in my personal life. And it's really weird to say it, but it's absolutely true. So I'm going to kind of bow out of here, and I'm going to switch over to the audiobook, and I'm going to start playing it. And I will probably pause and share my thoughts and my comment and my feelings about that. But this is just kind of a special episode. It was a time I could stick something in. We had a gap in our schedule, and this is something I've wanted to go back to since the audio logs came out. So sit back, relax, and enjoy with me a story of beauty, of love, and just adorableness in every sense of the word. It's going to be great. Whether you're new to this series or an old hat like me at it, let's have some fun. Okay, so here we are. Now, like I said, this is going to be something I'm going to be like having to stop and start because it's like I have to pause. I'm going to do that because the thing is like if the one thing they request is I don't do just a solid playthrough, and I don't want to do that anyway. This is going to be something I'm going to transform. It's something I've got to kind of help make my own. So bear with me on that because unfortunately it means I'm probably going to end up stopping quite a lot, and that's okay. It's okay with me. So I hope you're here to stick with it for that, but I'm just excited. This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful get back and to see these characters again, to be able to see more about their story. So I guess there's nothing else to it. Let's just jump back into it, shall we? Oh, it's got like surround sound. Like, interesting. Whenever they implement surround sound properly, it always gives you chills.
掲示板の画鋲についているプリントの切れ端を指で取り、半ばまで進めたカバン棚の雑巾掛けを再開する。1日分の塵とチョークの粉を袖が汚れないように手前から奥へと拭き取り、ピンク色になった雑巾を畳み直す。湿りを戻した雑巾がカラカラの棚板にすっと浮かばせる木目を目印にしながら、ペンキ屋さんのようにきっちりと線を重ねていくと、今度は落ちていた花びらに手を止める。
I guess another thing to remember too, like so, the story often bounces back and forth around like what's happening now versus what happened then. And I wouldn't describe it as being even like linear in a progression of thought. A lot of times you're seeing just snippets of life, but what's really cool about the way that they wrote the stories was always the fact that the little things actually mattered. You would see like a theme or references to ideas or concepts or events, and that would play a part in some of the thoughts or things that are happening at the end of that series, at the end of that arc. There's a lot that was put into the game that makes it feel so detailed and rich, but yet you normally would dismiss as just being, flavorful, that actually ended up being impactful. In fact, it was very common for this series to have like little Easter eggs and little like tiny references that make it so that going back through a second time was far more impactful. It's one of those games or one of those series that like you can play it the second time and almost get a similar like enjoyable experience from it because there's just so much interesting little content details that you just didn't have context for at the time to really kind of understand what made them so powerful, what made it so interesting. And yet it was still giving you the seeds of that information so that the delivery would be that much more impactful at the end. So even if it seems fairly like normal, like this is a very like, oh, I'm cleaning the board after school, but like the writer is going to tell us something important here, and you can't just dismiss any detail. There's little things to be paying attention to, and I'm going to be missing some of them, I'm sure. But like, it's just a good idea to remember, like, the little things matter here.
私は紫色の花びらをつまみ、その上ですっかり枯れてうつむいた花の枝を花瓶から抜き。
So it's interesting because like there's a picture in the core game of a kind of like a what do you call it? I just call it it's supposed to be like a 4-leaf clover, but the colors are not that of a clover. They were always like 4 different types of petals, like orange, purple. I think there might have been a green and yellow, but like they were like it was an artwork by I believe Takako. And kind of became a running theme. And so to have her see at the very beginning of the story a purple petal that she throws away, like it seems like an afterthought, but I think that it's kind of like a cameo about how these are all tied together. Remember, there's 4 audio stories, audio novels, and I would bet, I'd bet good money that each episode is going to be featuring a colored petal that matches like the four petals that of like the artwork, because that artwork kind of became a running Easter egg through the entire core story. So that's really interesting.
隅のゴミ箱に捨てた。他の掃除当番たちが喋りながら教卓側に寄せていた机を逆さに乗せた椅子と一緒に元の位置に戻し始めている。ベランダに出てガラス戸を閉め、分厚いコンクリ製の手すり壁の影に置いてあるスチールのバケツで雑巾を洗う。裏山から
It's interesting because like my school is never this involved.
かすかに森の湿った土と
Like I think that's one of the things that like Japanese schooling and like the bits and pieces I get from it, I both admire and kind of wonder about, because at this one time, on one hand, while it's really tedious, especially for kids, I do think it's kind of neat that the kids have some involvement in the upkeep of the school, like the classroom, and like everything. Like they clean everything, and it's usually something they help with every day. But I heard from someone who teaches English there that because students teach to clean the school, you can just bet that places are just not going to get very clean because they're just going to try and rush through real quick and get it done. So he said particularly the bathrooms would probably have a lot less oversight than the teacher than the classroom, because the teacher, goes into the classroom regularly, but the bathrooms apparently are not so great. That's the downside to not having a dedicated staff. But on the plus side, like I think it's good to it's a good mode to kind of, I don't know, keep kids maybe subconsciously invested in their school. Like if a kid's like being disrespectful or destructive to property, and the other kids know they're going to probably have to clean that up, they're probably more likely to stop in and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that.
家庭科の授業で縫ったばかりのまだ白さを残した雑巾を少し暖かくなってきたバケツの水で洗って絞る。持ち手を変えてねじれた雑巾をもう一度ぐっと絞り、鉄製の錆びたパイプに干してあるたくさんの雑巾の間から緑の塗装がまだ残っているところを選んで雑巾を引っ掛け。
So I think I'm looking at this, like I've immediately kind of figured it out. Like this isn't like an audiobook. This is more like a graphic audio, because like the background noise is playing such a big role, and that's something I don't think is getting captured on a video like mine, because I can't recapture like that surround sound, or at least if I can, I don't know how. And make it so it plays in your ears like it's playing in mine. But like I get that surround sound quality to it, and so like it feels like we're outside, and like I can imagine like that the sounds I'm hearing in the distance are just kids on a playground or talking right outside of school after like the school days ended, and they're like chatting before they head back home. It's very like immersive in a very cool way, and I wish I could express that to you, but again, it's just one of the things you might just have to, make sure you see it yourself.
それからバケツを取って手洗い場まで持っていき、大きな洗面台に濁った水を流した。
like to lose track of them when you're in the mundane.
教室に戻って用具箱にバケツを片付けると、今度は小黒板の下のゴミ箱を持って教室を出る。もう人気がなくなった廊下では黒板消しを叩く音と校門から帰宅する生徒たちの声が聞こえてくる。校門のすぐ外には線路が横切って、その先は田んぼとビルと瓦屋根がまばらな色の
That was weird. I don't know why that happened.
そのずっと先に海岸を埋める製鉄工場がある。一番向こうにある水平線と合わせて開いた窓から見える街は。
Now I don't know if that hiccup was on my end, like on the computer or not, but regardless of that, I apologize. But again, so we're painting a good picture here of the town they grew up in, I believe. Again, it's hard to know because the way the story is explained, it's not easy to always pick out exactly when and where and what's going on. it's one of those stories that actually really does what I call, like what's known as an unreliable narrator, but it does it really well, where it's like, you're not just having a narrator that's just like telling lies to you as the reader. Like, it's not like you're listening to a story, but then you find out later that the story was just presented to you wrong. It's not that case at all. It's the fact that it very humanizes it. So like we're watching this from what I'm assuming is Sachiko's point of view, which I'm sure will get confirmed later. But the thing is that you learn is that you follow Sachiko and you follow Takako, and you just learned a big reason why things seem like off is because people see things differently. So if we were to have this entire sequence played again, but from Takako's experience, like from her point of view, she would be at the same school with similar activities going around, but she's going to be noticing different things, and different things are going to come across. And like Sachiko is very melancholy and very much kind of more grounded, very somber, maybe. A bit more of a nihilist type of feeling, where Takako is always an optimist, very energized, and like, so like what's cool about that is that like that creates that unreliable narrative that just because they express and experience it a certain way doesn't mean that's the whole story, or that there wasn't more or less happening. You know, it's really cool.
突き出した煙突から黙々と勢いよく昇る白い煙が空を覆う灰色雲に混ざっていく。私は横目で煙と雲の境目を探しながら焼却炉へと向かう。抱えたゴミ箱を横にして急な階段を下り、第三校舎の裏口から外に出る。
Anime has like not just the same style hallways, but like they have this like a covered pavilion in a courtyard connecting two parts of the school building. It was in Persona. I swear, like this very location could be where everything in Fate, Unlimited Blade Works, and like not so much Heaven's Feel. They didn't really do as much at the school there, but Fate. Just Fate Stay Night and Fate Unlimited Blade Works, when they visit this school and that, it's like they have this exact same place, like with the bushes and the pillars and everything, and like it looks exactly the same. I don't know if that's a gentrification of media portrayal of a school, or if their schools in Japan are literally almost like carbon copy cuts of each other, like are they cookie cutter schools where you can see one school, you've practically seen them all. I don't really know. If anyone who's actually been there would like to share, I'd love to know.
This
is where I'd expect Takako to be.
外廊下を歩いていくと、すぐに裏庭の隅にある赤レンガの焼却炉に着いた。辺りは静かで、当番の上級生たちの姿はなかったが、まだ煙の出ていない煙突を見上げてゴミ箱を置く。観音開きの分厚い鉄の扉は、こちらを見上げるようにやや斜めを向いて、片方の扉の端がもう片方を押さえている。黒い鉄の取っ手を両手で握り、重い扉をゆっくり開くと、置いていたゴミ箱を取り、息を止めて焼却炉の口の上でひっくり返す。漂う塵が鼻をかすめるのを目を閉じてこらえ、最後に 2,3 回振ってからゴミ箱を置き、またゆっくりと重たい扉を閉めた。
We're hearing the thoughts of the person, right? But she had an audible cough at the same time, and it actually subtitled that cough too. So I'm guessing that was actually her. So it's like she has a voice and an inner voice, and we hear both of them at the same time. That's really interesting. And this actually, we had this talk like a while ago in another like episode, but again, it brings up the whole fascinating idea of like, how do you think? Because I didn't realize that literally thinking in sentences like this was actually a common thing for a lot of people. For me, it's always been impressions and pictures. I can form words in my head and hear a dialogue in my head, but that's something I have to like generate. I have to imagine a person talking like that. Like, and I see a person talking in my head. I don't see like the words or even like generic concepts and stuff. It's more of like, it's all impressionist. Like I can picture someone speaking in my mind, or I can just picture what I'm trying to visualize in my mind. So anyone who's got a running dialogue in your head, that's like, your life is just like a visual novel, like a real life one, which is really funny.
帰りは外廊下を途中で外れて第二校舎に入り、去年の教室と中庭の池の鯉とそばにあるヤシの木の大きな葉を眺めながら階段を上がり教室に戻った。
Alright, back to class.
お疲れとタカ子がベランダの窓際の席に座ったまま手を挙げていた。お疲れ様。
That's Takako's voice. Aww, so sweet. Takako, so Sachiko, Takako, they were some of the like my original like split voices. I would say it's funny because like I'm not a good voice actor at all. I would love to get into voice acting, but it's probably not in the stars, especially because I can't afford or have the time to get training. And getting online training is scuffed at best. I still hope to someday get involved in projects like that, but I got my own projects to work on currently, so we'll focus on those. Anyway, one of the things I did love though about this series was that the voices I gave, like Sachiko, I gave her kind of a deep, more kind of husky voice. Like, and then Takako, I gave her a very high-pitched voice. In fact, I kind of have resurrected Takako's voice to reprise the role of, oh shoot, I should know this. It's in Trails in the Sky. My brain's just farting right now. Estelle. Estelle's voice is very similar to the voice I used for Takako. So it's really fun hearing their actual, like the voices that the writer settled on. Like the writer and developer for the game, when they went to do this, I'm sure they picked out whom they wanted to reprise the roles of their main characters. And so it's kind of fun to hear the voice that the writers felt is closest to the way they imagined it.
空のゴミ箱を元の場所に戻して席の方に近づくとタカ子が立ち上がる。私はかけてあったカバンに机の中の教科書を詰め、かぶせのベルトについている差し込み式の留め金を
Notice how Sachiko hasn't actually said anything yet. Takako just said, "Hey, saw you went so and so," and then like Sachiko puts the trash can down, packs up her bag. Takako stands up. Like I'm guessing they're gonna walk home together. I'm pretty sure I remember that's what they typically did. But like it's just funny that Sachiko hasn't really said anything. It's again like she's a very quiet individual.
少し斜めにずれた机の足を前の机が踏んでいる床板の継ぎ目に合わせていると、タカ子のスリッパの甲に書いてある知らない名前が目に入った。誰？
これね、聞いてよ。さっき放送室の掃除で誰か間違って履いていったみたいでさ。
I was so sure Takako just put the wrong shoes on because she grabbed the wrong shoes, not that somebody else did.
そんなことある？
これがそうなのよ。
あなたが間違えたんじゃないの？
Yeah, Sachiko agrees with me. She's like, "Oh, sure, it was you."
カバンのベルトを肩にかけてからタカ子と教室を出る。玄関口の靴箱を下に見ながら階段を降りていると、一つ後ろを降りてくるタカ子に呼ばれて。
I love that. It's so interesting seeing it overlaid each other. It's really cool. I don't think I've ever seen a story, especially in a visual, like kind of a visual novel-esque format, using these multi-layered audio tracks around the same time, besides like a background noise, right? Like you'll hear like explosions and stuff, or maybe general like yells or cries, but like actual like voice lines being like said in conjunction with the interpretation of the thoughts. It's really weird. It's like we're really inside her head right now. 振り返るとお腹があって、そのまま見上げていくと、
タカ子がネクタイの
Like her
結び目
stomach is
の
in
上
like
か
just
ら
her stomach area, or
こ
does
ち
she
ら
pull
を
up
見
her?
下ろし
Oh,
てい
no.
た。押すわよ。
危ないって。
つま先立ちをすっとやめて、それでもまだ上背のあるタカ子が、ふふふと笑った。私は、や
Aw,
っぱり
come
あのお
on.
腹を押
Don't
し
be
ておけ
so
ばよかっ
mean.
たと思いながら、階段を降りた。タカ子が靴箱の前に敷かれたすのこの上を歩
Paka
いて、
paka. That's cute.
スリッパをパカパカと鳴らす。職員室で聞いてみる？振り返ったタカ子は、こちらの視線に気づいて、スリッパの甲をつまんだ手を見る。
次の掃除の時に戻ってくるでしょ。
来週の掃除の日まで履いているつもり？
Perfectly
それまで
reasonable.
は人質みたいなものだね。
タカ子はそう言って、誰かのスリッパを自分の下駄箱にしまい、
Oh, there's the music.
靴を取った。
お腹減ったな。なんか食べていかない？
ガランとした玄関口で、タカ子がつま先でタイルをトントンと鳴らしながら出てくる。
Look at them.
どこか行きたいところあるの？
そうそう。コインランドリーの喫茶店でさ、今朝は看板に
You
新
gotta
しいケー
remember,
キの
like,
写
what's
真
so
が出て
cool
たよ
about
ね。
this is that, like, remember, I said this is a small developer, it's a small team, small writer. Like, I feel like it was like essentially a two-person project. And a lot of the art was fairly, like, I wouldn't want to say, like, it wasn't like it was bad, but it was very, it was clear that they worked with somebody who was getting their start in the field of animation and, you know, artwork. And, you know, likely because of lack of resources, or like, again, maybe they were just in from the beginning as one of like the initial collaborators. The art was definitely great, and it definitely went really well. And the music's fantastic. Like, music was fantastic in the original too. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to just shake the hand of the person who wrote this. I also want to shake the hand of the person who writes the music, because holy crap, it's good. But like, to see this very like modernized, very stylized and like high fidelity type of artwork for Takako and Sachiko here is really cool to see. It's like seeing a reimagining of the same characters I have fallen in love with, because they're both fantastic.
私はふむと、喫茶店のランチメニューのパスタとサンドイッチを思い浮かべた。シーベッドオーディオノベル、企画フルーツバットファクトリー、原案パレオントロジー、シナリオ秀沢、演出アキラ、イラストトンブ、出演水野幸子、ナレーター水野幸子、高校時代近藤由衣
高子、松井絵里子、伊豆花みどり、愛谷咲。
お天気キャスタ
All
ー、
background
喫茶
characters.
店オーナー、ラジオパーソナリティ、常盤翔平
でお送りいたします。
It kind of shows you here, this is still a really small team to be making something, and this is like the enhanced team, remember? Like, I don't know for sure. I'd love it if somebody who knows, because I can ask, and I probably will ask, but since this is a one-shot kind of thing, there's a good chance it will need to be something that gets highlighted in the comment section. I believe that in that what we saw there, the scenario was written by like a name, and then the director was Akira. I believe she's the original author, like the original writer. So this seems like it might have been a project that the writer oversaw, that was made by a passionate fan or somebody on the production team, maybe at Fruitbat Factory, because it sounds like this was something that was pitched from Fruitbat, saying like, hey, we had an idea, what if we did this? You know, maybe as a way of like, maybe they were funded the project too. And just said like, hey, like you can oversee it, make sure everything's in line with what you experience, but like it gives a fresh take on some of the stuff, which I think is kind of cool. Like if I'm right about that, that's awesome. If I'm wrong about that, that's perfectly fine. It's still cool to know. Anyway.
校門の前に立つ教頭先生に挨拶をして、二人並んで短い坂を降りていく。道の先で踏切が鳴り出して、私は歩を緩める。高子はガードレールの奥の用水路の濁った流れを眺めながら歩いていた。
It doesn't, how do I say it? It doesn't personify or like glorify life. A lot of anime we watch, especially high school anime, kind of tries to capture, like, especially for from the perspective of someone who's older, because usually that's the person who's writing these stories, is someone who's been through school but it's, an adult now. It often is through a lens of like idolization, of like positivity, and like the schools always look pristine. Everyone, like most everyone, seems to participate in all the events. Seems that like the school festivals always seem like they have a lot of fun things that are successful and people are doing stuff. Like it seems very like I said, idolized. Reality's not like that. Like a lot of us went to school, and even if we didn't go to school in Japan, we went to high school, and our high schools had very similar things. And like our schools aren't entirely glamorous. Our school lives certainly weren't. And like things went wrong. People were disinterested. Like not everyone engaged. Sometimes people were bullied or made fun of. But like there's downsides and there's darkness inside like these times, even though a lot of us looked rather fondly back on the time in our lives when our worries were really minimal. And we kind of miss that, so we tend to kind of over sensationalize high school at the time. What I like about the story in SeaBed and here as we're seeing it is the focus and the details don't always just focus on like the stuff of school. Like it's opened up with something you might see in a typical like anime, like cleaning the chalkboard and like doing some of the chores around the school. But then it talked about how like she walked through and she observed the scenery. She noted some of the beautiful scenery, but then she also locked eyes with like the incinerator smokestack, which I would never describe incinerators or factory smokestacks as being beautiful. It was just a part of the landscape. It's a part of the landscape we all had to grow up with. Like industrial complexes are part of humanity, and not very many of us can live in a place where we wouldn't see that. And we all can agree none of it looks pretty. Like it's not like it's a nice thing to see. It's a necessity. And I think that that's something that's cool because these stories have always seemed really well grounded. Not always, though, because there are even times in the stories where Sachiko or Takako are reflecting on the past, on something they did, and those do seem to have that kind of personified lens of like where time erased some of like the bumps or the rough patches and kind of smooths it all out into something really pristine. But I like how down to earth the story is too.
何もいないでしょ。カッパが流れてくるかも。
さすがに用水路には流れてこないと思うわよ。一両編成の電車が通り過ぎると、高子がそういえばこの間夜中に目が覚めてさ、と言った。ん？と私は手で首の後ろを揉んでいる高子の眠たそうな顔を見る。
まだ真っ暗だし、じっと眠るの待ってたらさ、台所の方でタッタッタって音がするんだよ。蛇口の雫が垂れてシンクを叩いてるみたいな音だから、なるほど。これで起きたのか。
So a lot of the background art are kind of like filtered real pictures, but come on, that's just a real sink. Like and like the quality of that, like it almost looks like a beautifully taken stock photo, but like at the same time it's like that's just a normal picture. That's not even like a filtered version.
ってすごく気にならない？
まあそうね。うちは寝室が離れてるからそれはあんまり聞いたことはないけれど。寝る時にする物音は気になる方かも。
でしょ？私も神経質だし、だから寝る時は絶対にしっかり蛇口を閉めるのよ。
私は高子の神経質についていくつかの判例をスリッパの件と合わせて飲み込む。
She absolutely contradicts herself all the time, but you love her for it. Like it's actually part of that like inconsistency, and yet like she's consistent about the stuff that matters. Like being loyal and like, well, to friends at least, maybe not to school, but like to friends. She's loyal and she's someone who'd always have your back. She's someone who would like go to war for you, kind of a person. So yeah, that's cute. That's really cute.
家族の誰かが水でも飲んだんじゃない？いやいやと貴子が首を振る。
私もそう思ってしばらく聞いてたんだけど、蛇口の閉め忘れだといつも同じ感覚で水が落ちるはずなのに、その時はタッタッタってなっていると思えばタタタタってなる時もあるし、しばらく音がしないと思ったら今度はダダダってなってびっくりしちゃった。
The tap twister.
それって絶対に妖怪蛇口ひねり
Really?
の
A
せいじゃない？
demon that inhabited your spigot. No, that's because it's never.
その妖怪知らないんだけど。
私が命名したの。蛇口なんて昔はなか
I
った
was
し。
mocking, but she might have a
新
point.
発見だ
If
よ。
you believed, like genuinely believed that there were like the types of like spirits and demons and things that are very, traditional in Japanese folklore and Shintoism, it would be completely believable that a demon would adapt to modern society. So there could be a demon of the spigot, but you could think that a demon would be a little like that. That's an interesting place for a demon to inhabit.
それで音の正体は何だったの？
いやいや、あんなのもう怖くて見に行けなかったね。
なんでよ。気にならなかったの？
気にはなったけど、あんまり眠くてすぐ寝ちゃったからね。
神経質は？貴子の適当な調子に頭をクラクラさせていると、
But you love her for
あ
her
っという
nonsense.
間に時間が過ぎていった。
Okay, so I think this might be the end of part 1, but we'll roll right into part 2. We're only doing the 2 parts though, so we'll jump right into that.
線路をまたぐ道路橋を渡って降りてきた2車線と、市街から伸びてくる片側2車線の表通りとが合流する大きな交差点で信号を待っていると、音を立てて通過するバスと、
So yeah, like I said before, there's 4 parts to this whole story, but it's all just looks like it's one story, which is why I had like kind of like the intro title card at the beginning, and then I think it would just kind of flow into just like with this entire narrative.
蓮向かいにあるコンクリートの土台から白い柱が伸びて、雲間の青い空にピカピカのフクロウの
Again, I don't know why I did that. I hope it's not my computer.
信号の色が変わり、格好がなく、貴子が見送るカンガルーのトラックは坂を上がり、向こうの山裾へと降りていった。ねえ、あそこのメガネ屋さん改装したの？
改装？
Okay, I might be going crazy. I swear the glasses shop is the thing. Like, so they're saying that used to sell golfing stuff, and then now it's a glasses shop, and they're saying it might have been remodeled. And I could have sworn that in the future, maybe this what was a glasses shop became the clinic that we see with Dr. It's Narasaki, right? Yeah, Dr. Narasaki. So, yeah, I think I'm probably crazy, but part of me just immediately said glasses shop, and I was like, that sounds familiar. Why is that familiar?
そういえば、そうだったわね。
ゴルフ屋さんの前はメガネ屋さんだったけどね。
どうしてまたメガネ屋さんを始めたのかしら。
さあ、少しの間だけゴルフが趣味になったんじ
Doesn't
ゃ
sound
な
like a
い？
good way to run a business. Just follow your whims.
そこにかやぶき屋根の料亭があったの覚えてる？
大きな水槽のあったところ？
そうそう、一度お祭りか何かの時に行ったよね。たくさん子供がいた気がするけど、
Look at
あ
this
れっ
street.
て何の集まりだったっけ？
お祭り？町内会の清掃か何かじゃなかったかしら。
そうだっけ？
料亭の広い玄関と階段に沿って並ぶ水槽の前で竜宮
Yeah, that
城
would be
みた
what
い
she
だと
does.
騒いでいたタカ子を思い出す。
あとこっちの通りじゃ
So
なかっ
like,
た？
I think I mentioned it, but I want to pause and just kind of bring it up here. It's like the way that the background is. Like, remember, a lot of these backgrounds are clearly based on real pictures. Like so, but like the clarity of this one's really interesting. They used a different program for this than they had used for most of the pictures before, because it's like it really feels like I'm kind of standing on this like street, but it's obviously washed out. So it almost reminds me of the style that we see in Across the Spider-Verse, those movies, like the art direction they took with that. It's really kind of cool.
白い箱のような形をした紳士服店の裏にある細い道から
Yeah, where are we going?
一つ裏路地に入っていく。下校する学生たちの話し声が少なく、車の音も小さくなる。電飾が外されたアーチの下を落ちてきそうな文字盤を見上げながらくぐって屋根なしの商店街に入ると、すぐ近くにあるコインランドリーの突き出し看板が見えた。その下には喫茶店のスタンド看板があり、隣にはカゴに買い物袋を入れた自転車
So
が
like Sachiko's very
一台
detail
立て止まってい
oriented,
る。
so it's probably a good reason why we're in her head for this, because Takako would be very like lost in her own thoughts, and she wouldn't be even keeping track of where we were. If you don't have that impression by now, like it's clearly you've seen like the way she talks. Like Sachiko's kind of like, this is here, and this is here. Oh, that's an interesting detail. Oh, that's a different color, like that. And then Takako's kind of like, I have a demon inhabiting my spigot.
ガラスの窓に貼られた色テープの防犯カメラ設置の文字の向こうで、アロハシャツを着た男が白いベンチに座って洗濯物を眺めている。タカ子はスタンド看板の横にある階段を先に上がり、こんにちはと玄関の扉を開けた。扉の隅についていた小さな鐘がカランと鳴って、カウンターの向こうで洗い物をしている店主のおじさんが手を動かしたままこちらを見る。
いらっしゃい。
タカ子は後からお店に入った私に向かって「空いてる空いてる」と奥のソファー席を指さす。それから扉の横にある書棚に向かって雑誌を物色し始めた。
I think all of us have these, unless you're like in the boonies, like really tiny areas. I grew up in a fairly small city, but it was large enough to have a lot of these little nooks and crannies. I remember I went to this place, I think they called it the Villa. It was just this little coffee shop that was in this kind of older part of town near the river. And it was like a refurbishing, but it had a very similar feel. It was like a very cozy kind of area that had bookshelves with like books you could read, and even had some like board games you could play. It was very casual, and they spaced people out. So like instead of trying to cram a whole bunch of different seats in one small area, they actually spread out the tables a lot, so you could have a little bit more isolation, like kind of sit down with your selected people and kind of hang out, and even had like some places with couches and stuff if you preferred that. I've never been a coffee drinker, and I've never found a tea I actually really enjoy. I imagine the only kind I would like would be the sweet tea that's so hyped up on sugar it might as well not be tea. But I was a huge fan of what they called steamers, which is essentially warm milk, but they add a flavor to it. So you could get these just these like kind of flavor shots mixed in with your warm milk, and it was genuinely fantastic. Just so I'm immediately being brought back to that that place, and I wonder if it's still open. Actually, I'll have to figure that out next time I manage to go home.
棚の上では天井につけられたブラウン管テレビが
CRTV.
メインキャスターと天気予報士の雨雲の話を映していた。私は静かな店内を見回してからカウンターを見る。店主が手に持ったカップを返すとカチャリと水切り台に置いた。
奥の席でもいいですか？
もちろんどうぞ。
店主は落ち着いた声で答えると 溜めた湯の中から次のカップを取る。
おじさん、この間の写真集は？
何も触ってないよ。
肩に下げたカバンが当たらないように手で押さえながら。
Okay, so this is pretty much like what I grew up with. Well, it wasn't even grow up. It opened up when I was in high school, but I consider that growing up with it because it was there for my childhood / teenage years. But yeah, like this, it feels like it's like exactly the same. Like I wasn't off the mark when it came to the feel of this place.
反対の手を突きかけたテーブルの古いモニタには故障中
Okay,
と
so I think I've seen those in some
マジックで書いた紙が貼ってある。
abroad in Japan's done some videos where he's talked about and shown some old school style like ramen shots and stuff, and having like a tiny CRTV hanging in the corner or sitting next to the tables was apparently a fairly common thing. So it's kind of funny to see that that's apparently here too, but broken.
窓のない店内は奥側の壁にかけてあるキャンドル級のランプが
Yeah.
ぼんやりオレンジの明かりをつけている。小上がりになっているソファー席の一角は段差を踏むと敷かれた赤い絨毯の下で板がきしむ音がする。手すりに手を置いてそっと上がる。カウンターの方を向いた二人掛けのソファーに座ってカバンをテーブルの下のカゴに入れる。一息ついてぼんやりと花柄の壁紙についたシミ、針の動かない置き時計、木製の手すり庫の細工を眺めていると、
So listen to this place. So she's describing it as like a nice and cozy area, but she goes up to and she sees a CRTV that's out of order. She looks at a clock with hands that aren't moving. So it's like there's obviously lots of knickknacks in this place, but it's also kind of run down. It has an interesting feel to it, but at the same time, it also feels a little timeless, right? Like we're stepping into a moment that's frozen. Which I don't know if that's intentional, but that's kind of what it makes me think of. And now we're going to look at some picture books, and knowing these two, they're going to be pictures of far off lands because one of the big things they shared was a love of traveling.
私が腰を少しだけソファーの奥へずらして竹編みのカゴを引くと、貴子はカゴにカバンを入れて隣に座り、持ってきた本をテーブルの真ん中に置いた。
作戦会議だ。
God, that's weird. It's like someone's walking up behind me.
店主がお盆からグラスの水とビニールに入った
Again, so
お
like
し
we
ぼり
got
を
this
テ
weird,
ーブルに
interesting kind
並
of
べる。
dichotomy of a manager where he's running a shop with lots of very old pieces, and several of them aren't working actively. Like they're still just like there's a clock on the shelf not working, there's a TV on the table not working. But he's described as being a meticulous cleaner, of having a very like practiced movements, and he comes up and he's like gently setting down things, and he doesn't just give them like drinks, he gives them like moist towelettes and all these things. Like it's like there's a level of care there that's at a juxtaposition to the state of his own establishment.
貴子は前に置かれたグラスとおしぼりをこちらによこしながら
Naturally.
新作ケーキのセットを注文する。私は横にあるアクリルのメニュープレートのパスタとサンドを見比べてから野菜サンドを注文した。以上で。注文を確認した店主はニコリと笑顔でお辞儀してから席を離れると、カウンターの隅に置いてあったリモコンで平均株価を読
Okay,
み
so there's
上
another
げてい
TV
る
that
テレ
is
ビ
still
を消
working.
してい
And also,
った。
I like how they like another juxtaposition we're seeing here. That Takako sits down immediately. She's like, I want this cake. She's like, she knew exactly what she wanted when she came here. Sachiko looks at the menu and she picks out of all the choices of pasta and vegetables, she gets what Lenny would probably label as the most boring choice, which was the veggie sandwich. Personally, the one I'd probably pick too. But that's mostly because I've kind of not been a big fan of eating lots of excessive meats lately. They make me feel really sick, unfortunately. Ever since my surgery a couple of years ago, it's just never meshed with me very well. So if I were at this place, I'd probably be picking a veggie sandwich too. Anyway, I just think it's cool to see like that split. And if I know Takako, she's gonna demand to share some with Sachiko because that's who she is.
しばらくしてスピーカーからクラシック調のゆったりとしたピアノの音楽が流れ始める。テーブルに置かれた本のだいぶくたびれた表紙カバーには、西洋の家というタイトルの下にどんぐり屋根をつけた白い家のカラー写真が刷られてあった。端は折れていて上の方が日焼けしている。タカ子はパンとビニール袋を鳴らすと取り出したおしぼりで手を拭いてから
normally very flippant about stuff. She goes to the trouble of washing her hands before she touches the book. Like, some people would look at a really old crusty book and be like, oh, I'll wash my hands after I've touched it. Who knows how many people touch it? But she's like, no, I gotta wash my hands and make them clean before I open this book. It shows a level of reverence that's actually surprising for Takako.
目次には地中海に面した国の名前とそれらの都市名が並んでいる。
Okay. If you had to live in one of them, which would you choose? If I had to pick one of these two, I'd pick the one on the right. Though that's a little, might be a bit misleading because they could be the same landscape just in different seasons. But like, I'm immediately drawn to that like gorgeous view into a valley surrounded by mountains. Now the one on the left also probably gorgeous view into the valley surrounded by mountains. But I don't know, there's something really appealing about that like winding road into a small hamlet that just looks so fun.
まずは寒すぎず暑すぎないところかしら。
ほーん、この辺は横ばいだしあんまり変わらないんじゃないの？私は冬は雪が降って夏は海水浴ができるところがいいかな。
In the mountains, certainly.
イタリアって雪が降ると思う？
前にローマの雪の写真を見たことがあるわね。
いいね。
タカ子は目次をなぞっていた指を少し戻すと右手で本の片側を持ち上げ親指で押さえた小口から一つずつページを落としていく。雪山のふもと、草原にポツンとある村、切り出しの崖の上にある町、二つの川が流れる都市、二次ブランプの明かりの下で写る写真はパラパラと家の形と色を写し替えて最後に石造りの港に止まる。タカ子は持ち上げていた本の半分を机に置いてこちらに少し寄せその街を俯瞰するように覗く見開きの大きな写真を見せた。
But it kind of also looks like a nightmare. Like building up buildings on such steep slopes. Like immediately my mind's like, look how close to the water you are. What if there's a sudden swell? What if there's a big storm? Like, isn't your house gonna insta flood even in like a minor problem? Also, like it's a geographic, like geologically active area. Like, what if there's an earthquake? Isn't having a house on a big hill like that really risky? I don't know. Like, I can't help but think about those types of things. And man, what a place to visit.
写真下の海には青いボートと漁船がいくつも浮かび海面とほとんど変わらない高さになっている石床の海岸に並んで止められている。
I love living next to water. I never realized how much I loved it or how meaningful it was to me because growing up, we would always visit my grandfather who lived on the shore of a fairly large lake, and he actually ran like summer log kind of like cabining there. Like it's like the step up from camping, so you could rent out essentially what B&Bs have become now. But it was like had a string of like cabins which each had kitchens and multiple beds and pull out futons and all that right on the shore of a lake, so you'd have access to the mountains and the lakeside near like some national forests and everything. So there's a lot of cool stuff to see, and then you have like a place to crash at the end. And they take care of this place, ran it like a more like an upgrade from a hotel type of place. So it was really, really cool. And I grew up going there every summer, and we'd go boating and go swimming and do all this stuff. And like, it was just such a part of my life. I never really realized how lucky I was to have access to all of that. And so when I grew up and moved away and no longer got access to it, and then my grandfather retired and decided to move away from that area, I I miss it. I miss it terribly. And I love boating. It's one of those things where like, it's a skill I never realized I learned because it was something I learned like passively over time. But like, I know how to handle a boat. I know how to go take it out, and I can go canoeing and kayaking and motorboating, just like either in a tiny little like little aluminum, essentially a box with like a little like wrist motor engine just kind of like strapped to the back that you like have a stick to drive with, or what I'm most comfortable with, which is just a normal like speedboat type thing where you're behind the wheel and you just kind of go forward and backward. I love it so much. I really hope someday I can get back to a place where I can live next to the water and have my own boat again, because even just having little bits and pieces of that type of life growing up makes me so desperate to see it again someday.
海を目前にした居住区はパステルカラーの四角い家を段々に積み重ね
That's
て
crazy.
いびつな斜面を成している。重なり合う屋根の向こうにはまた海があって、写真上はピントのボケた空
Like I
と
said, I'm pretty
海
sure
の
I've seen those exact
青い
pictures, like the real
境を
ones.
にじませている。
Look at that.
防波堤がない。
そこ気になる？
船を止める縄も
Well,
な
that's because
い。
it's in a harbor.
よっぽど
And it's a
海が
pretty
穏や
solid
かなのか
harbor,
な。
and it's probably a really nice time of day.
怒りで止めてるんじゃないの？
あ、そうそう。あの杭の名前ってなんていうか知ってる？
知らない。なんていうの？
ボラなんとかって。あら？この間テレビで言ってたんだけど、ほら、杭の形ってちょっと前のヤンキー漫画とかによ
Also,
く出てく
point
る
out
髪
here,
型に
we're
似
looking
て
at
る
a
でしょ？
very interesting part of landscape because you've got a harbor here and like water over there. So like this is like an island or like something right off of the tip of the boot in Italy or something. Very pretty, but holy cow! Like what a location.
タカコが自分の手を使って額の前に形を作った。
Pompadour, yeah.
リーゼント？
あ、そう、それを固めてるのってなんて言うんだっけ？
そう。
それに似た名前だってところまで
I
は
have no
覚えて
idea
る
what
んだ
she's
けど。
talking about, by the way.
と一人クイズショーを始めたタカコを置いて港町に戻り、建物の間にちらほらと見える階段を探しながら坂を登っていくと、一つだけ他と異なる丸い屋根を見つける。そのドーム状の屋根の上にはもう一つ小さなドーム屋根があり、その上に目を凝らすと、
Yeah.
海の青に半ば溶け込むように立っている灰色の十字架が見えた。屋根の下の壁は積み上げた石がむき出しのままで、色をつけた港の中で少し浮いている。教会の入り口を探しながらなぞる古い壁は、隅や奥まったところにはうっすらとまだ色がついていて、
You gotta remember places like this, especially ancient Italy, in areas that were very popular for, maybe the rich resources, access to fishing and all that stuff, like a fishing port. These are cities that were likely established 1,000, 2,000 years ago, if not further. And so like they built on top of those bones. So like this like exposed rock that's like in front of the church could easily have been part of an ancient bastion of like, kind of parapet of a castle or sometimes of a fort defenses that then kind of got reconstituted into the actual city.
改めて見ると、周りの住居もそれぞれに色あせており、塗り直したばかりの明るい色の建物もあれば、教会ほどではないが、くすみ切ってほとんど色のない建物もあった。下へ下へ。水平の屋根とつづら折りの階段を、今度は網だくじのように降りていく。建物の間、奥に続く道はいくつかあったが、表にそれらしい扉は見えなかった。
Oh, I was wondering what that was. I was like, I heard like the scuff. I was like, something about to happen? Like, no, it's the food. Look at that.
店主がお盆から街の写真の横にコーヒーカップを置くと、
Not for me, but I'm sure you'll
ふわ
love
り
it.
とコーヒーの香りが立つ。添えられた高子のケーキは大きな栗の乗ったモンブランで、マロンクリームが紫色をしている。
サンドイッチはもう少しお待ちください。
そう言って店主は静かに戻っていった。
Takako, calm down.
迷路みたい。迷子になりそう。
Ah,
海賊に容易に攻められないように、
cool.
あえて複雑にしているみたいね。私が隅に書かれていた説明文を読むと、高子はなるほどとうなずいた。
サチならどの家に住みたい？
The one in the middle?
ここはいい
The
かもし
pinkish
れない
one.
わね。
Oh, okay, that one there.
斜面から少しせり出した淡いピンクの建物を指す。屋根の上の物干し竿には
Khaki pants.
無地のシャツとカーキのパンツが干してある。
日当たり良さそうだね。こういうところで椅子を置いてさ、お昼下がりにはお茶を飲んだり、
And like,
本を読んでたいね。
It's right spitting on the
あ、ほ
water.
ら、やっぱりあるじゃん。
高子はコーヒーカップの中でカチカチと回していたスプーンを離して、盛り上がったページの喉を指さした。そこは淡いイエローの家の壁の中ほどに扉があり、
That right there.
隣の家の屋根まで階段が降りてテラスのようにしている。白いテーブルと椅子が置かれ、壁沿いに植え込み、屋根の縁には柵があり、ここにも洗濯物がきれいに並んでいる。
これって街灯かな？
テーブルの近くの壁に黒い線が伸びて、その上に傘をつけた丸いランプのようなものがあった。明かりっぽいわね。
Can you imagine like sitting out on your deck and like
やっぱりそうだよね。
reading a book
へ
at night?
いいなぁ。
高子は茂
Sure.
これだけ広
sure.
いとバーベキューもできそうじゃない？
Oh.
新鮮な魚もたくさんある。
お肉はないのかな？
ないってことはないんじゃない？
まあ魚か。
You probably better be able to make it
魚
yourself
ならお
then.
筋がいいな。
刺身ではあんまりないかもしれないわね。どっちかというとオーブンで香草焼きとかトマト煮込みとかの印象があるわ。
すごく美味しそう。どんな魚が取れるんだろう。
高子がそう言って海に浮かぶ漁船の甲板に顔を寄せる。青いペンキで塗られた漁船の船室はどれも家と同じパステルカラーの四角い形で、後部に網が積まれている船もあった。私は受け皿からコーヒーカップを取り、口元で温度を確認してから一口飲む。高子は魚を探すのを諦めて顔を離すと、次も見てみようという。そうしてまたペラペラとページをめくっているところに、店主がサンドイッチを運んでくると、高子はあっさりと本を閉じてソファーの横に置いた。
Beautiful story. Yet again. It's not even over yet, but it's still like, I'm really loving it so far. Man. End of part 2. And that's where we're gonna have to end it for today. It's really cool seeing this back again, and I'm definitely gonna enjoy reading the other two ones. But like, so remember, that was only half. There's a lot more to explore and to see this like moment of them, their budding like plans and relationship. I don't know how far along they were in the relationship side of all of it, but at the very least, it seems pretty clear that they're like wistfully imagining them being able to travel and see the world, which is something they both had a passion for. Even though they look like such different people on the surface, it's like they had such a wonderful thing to tie them together, and it was just such a cool experience to be able to be back here and do this again. Thank you so much. Thank you to Fruitbat Factory for providing me the opportunity years ago to explore and enjoy this game. Again, I said it was one of those things that came out of nowhere. It was a surprise. I started playing it. It was cute and it was fun. And then somewhere along the way, it just grabbed my soul and really just started to kind of bear it to me, like in a really odd way. It's like you don't just read this story about these fantastic characters and like their journeys and their struggles, but you also kind of get to see of self-reflection. It's really easy to see it's such a believable story, but it's also unbelievable. It's really, it captures all the dynamics of like what a tale can really be. And it's just so beautifully crafted. And I'm really grateful I could share this little piece of it again after all these years. I don't want to share the rest of it because if you want to know more about their story and like the way that they talk to each other, I really, really, really want you to continue to support these developers because someday I'd love for them to continue to make great content like this again. And we're kind of the backbone of that. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you're grateful for this opportunity. Unfortunately, next week we will be jumping into Starfield, maybe? We've run into some technical issues. I'm still running some like computer trouble, unfortunately, and I'm thinking that Starfield might not play well with the current issues. I'm really going to be committed to try and get that fixed this week. But we have a backup if Starfield is not in the stars yet. As much as I would hate that because the patrons did vote for it, we have a backup in place so that, you know, we can do something if that were to fall through. And, you know, we'll play Starfield together when the time comes and when it's available. But for now, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a great day. I'll be looking forward to great content to come on the channel and that there's something here that's still keeping you coming back. And if you want to see something specific or you want to let me know what you think about the content on the channel or something you want to see me play, please let me know in the comments below. This is a great opportunity to reach out to me because this video is going to be a little different from all the others. But mostly, I hope that you have yourself a great week. Thank you to the patrons and members who make it possible for me to content like this more often. And also, I hope you all just understand that the SeaBed is like a great microcosm of like why I make content like this. Because a game like SeaBed should never be lost in the algorithms of Steam. It should never be like sidelined or glanced over because it doesn't have like, it's not topping charts on VNDB or on like Reddit posts or Twitter posts or whatever. It's such a glorious game that I hope everyone gets a chance to read and enjoy because it's so good. And it gives me hope that there's greater things to come. So thank you so much for being here and sharing it with me. But until the next video, watch me up and see me next. I'll see you there.